So Murderbot finally wins over Garathrin, and Minsei is a VIP? What? Hello and welcome back to the couch. We saved you a seat. My name is Luke, and today we're checking out Chapter 6 of All Systems Red, the Murderbot Diaries. Yes, we're doing a chapter-by-chapter review of the book that the TV show on Apple Plus is based on. Yes, it's about this big, and if you want to follow along, pretty easy read. You can go to the link in my description. It's an Amazon link. Buy the book. Follow along. We're going to get started, though, because this is Chapter 6. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, the stress has been amped up a notch. It has. There are some funny parts of this chapter. There are some lengthy parts of this chapter. But for the most part, it's a good chapter. Pretty easy to read. This is probably the second longest chapter to the last one. But yeah, pretty interesting stuff here. Okay? We find out a few more things, mostly about our team, which I wasn't expecting. But here it goes. The first part of the chapter essentially is they've landed the hoppers in a safe space, and Murderbot is doing a perimeter sweep while the rest of the team is kind of just deciding what's happening, what's going on, and Murderbot is kind of just commenting on the fact that the humans are going to be uncomfortable in the living quarters because their habitat was so kind of nice and spacious, and now they basically live in 2 helicopters, or I guess medium-sized ships. Haven't seen the TV show, don't really know what they look like. They call them hoppers. I imagine they're about the size of a Learjet, or smaller maybe than a Learjet. Pretty tight quarters for their 2 groups of people, the 7 of them. Also, they came up with a name for the people who are hunting them. They call them Evil Survey, which I think is great. I love that they all have nicknames, and like they kind of don't take things way too seriously. I don't know what you guys think about Evil Survey. Tell me what you think in the comments. Evil Survey is hilarious, though. Then we get to part 2, and this is the longer part of the chapter. We call this Humanizing Murderbot. You see, Overse set up some remote censoring equipment so that they could be warned if any of their part were being scanned by overhead or anything else. And when Murderbot headed back to the hopper, he ran into Minsei outside, and Minsei's like, "Look, let me talk to you for a second. We need to be able to see your face. I know you're more comfortable with your face mask being opaque, but with what's happening here, we'd like to know that we're dealing with someone who has facial expressions and is not just some machine killing machine." She says it in a better way, but essentially it's that she's trying to provide Murderbot with evidence, continued evidence to support that it's not a Murderbot. This is particularly, I think, for Grathan and the other people. It's to help kind of humanize Murderbot, and of course Murderbot's like, "Nah, I ain't gonna do this." But then it allows Minsei to kind of say, "Look, this is a way for us to see you, or for them to see you as a human, and as a creature, and not just a construct, as I see it." Thought that was really, really cool. Minsei seems like pretty bright leader, pretty smart person to this point, having clarity and voice and thoughtfulness. Probably my favorite character, not gonna lie. Minsei's the fucking man. This is the point where the crew kind of comes together and they're discussing, who's hunting them, why are they being hunted, and Murderbot kind of brings up the idea like, well, they went after Deltfall first, and now they're with you guys, and kind of questions the value of these 2 survey teams, right? Because, Murderbot just sees it as a job, right? And they're like, "Wait a minute. Do you know who we are?" And Murderbot's like, "Well, no, I didn't read the pamphlet. I have no idea." Grathan's like, "What? How can we believe that you just didn't want to read the pamphlet?" And Murderbot's answer is hilarious. What is it? Murderbot says that it's because of indifference. It genuinely didn't care who it's supporting in this or any other venture. Love that the governor module being replaced kind of just lets it be like, yeah, it's my job to keep these people secure, and I like these people because they're thoughtful people, but otherwise, kind of funny. Then Murderbot is embarrassed because they're all looking at him like, ugh, what? You're such an interesting thing. And Murderbot's like, don't look at me, don't look at me, don't look at me. And then Grathan asks about, are you embarrassed that we're looking at you? Is that how we can like punish you. And then after some back and forth, Murderbot then threatens Grathan without resorting to violence, to which Minsei says, it threatened you without resorting to violence. Doesn't that prove that it's trustworthy? Because it could have just killed you right there, right? And Grathan's like, for now. I think Grathan is kind of a tool. I did think there for a little while that Grathan was on the other side, that we had a mole, a spy, but now I think Grathan is just a tool, just kind of a prick, right? Doesn't really trust anything that is more capable than itself, right? And Grathan is an enhanced human or augmented human. I don't remember what they're called, but not as fully cybernetic as Murderbot. After this tussle, kind of back and forth, we have a really human moment between Minsei and Murderbot. They get on their private feed. It's like, are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. I need you. Yes, you need me. I don't know what I'm doing here. None of these people know what they're doing here. I know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing here either. The only reason that I know what I'm doing is because I'm programmed to do it. Well, we're here for you. I'm here for you guys too. It's really cute. And then there's a little bit of imposter syndrome, which I love. I love when there's imposter syndrome and people persevere through it. Like, they just rely back on their fundamentals. That happens a lot in sports, by the way. That happens a lot in anything that's competitive. Anything where they're like, okay, what are we trained to do here? What are we capable of doing? Let's go back to the fundamentals. This really kind of realigns with that. It's like Murderbot's like, I'm panicking all the time. You just can't see it. Duck on a pond. Duck on a pond, right? Duck looks quiet, cool, calm, collected. Underneath that water, mile a minute. Duck on a pond. Love that part. Then Murderbot lets the crew know, because they then start questioning after they have this private moment. They then start questioning, like, who these people are, why are they there, and where did they come from, and what are they doing now? And Murderbot's like, look, I actually left 3 drones to record in 3 separate locations that are kind of hidden, and I can't access it because the hub system is down, but I was planning on just getting really close and accessing it at some point. And they were like, holy crap, you had a plan? And he's like, yeah, I had a plan. And that's the end of that part. So it's pretty cool. It's a humanizing part. We then get to the night watch, which is what I call it, which is essentially Minsei set up a watch schedule. Everyone got to take some rest and take a few moments to themselves, get into their own feeds and whatnot. And when the humans started settling down, Murderbot went on patrol, and then it comes back and sits in the cockpit and with Reti, and Murderbot and Reti have this pretty detailed conversation about who Minsei actually is, and that she's this pretty high level, voted, prestigious person in their sector, in their system, and that their group is really actually kind of important. So important, in fact, that they probably can't just be mercilessly killed by this group. As a matter of fact, Minsei specifically is like high profile VIP, and that also in their sector, like, bots are allowed full reign and full access and have like all of the human right, all the rights that humans have. So of course this is how they treat Murderbot. And then it kind of really dawns on Murderbot that's like, well, I mean, I've watched stuff where bots had freedom and it's boring what they do, and I'd rather just watch other bots watch TV, which is hilarious because it kind of makes fun. It pokes fun at us, young people younger than me, who watch other people play video games. It's like they don't play video games, but they watch other people play video games on Twitch or whatever. It's kind of funny that they would rather do that than play the games themselves. Pretty funny. This also leads Murderbot to believe that this evil survey has no idea who Minsei is, which is fascinating. I'm sure that's going to play into a part soon. And then we lead it to part 4, where Murderbot, Minsei, Grathan, Pinley, and Reti load up into the small hopper and they want to go check the feed. Grathan wasn't initially going to go and is still testing Murderbot. But Murderbot doesn't care, and Murderbot's just comfortable that if Grathan just ended up getting killed, it would be okay. That's the end of part 4. That's it. Then there's a part 5. On the way, Minsei, Pinley, Reti, they're fallen asleep or they're incapacitated for the moment because it's a pretty long flight and they probably didn't get a ton of sleep. And Garathan and Murderbot are sitting in the cockpit. And the way it's described here in the book is that the cockpit is pitch black, right? They've blacked it out so that they can't be seen as they fly close and close and close. And they're trying to do stealth mode. So they're both just sitting in the dark, right? And Murderbot is flying via being plugged in, I guess, to the controls of the hopper, which I think is kind of cool. And Garathan asks Murderbot a really specific question. Well, first, I find it kind of interesting, and so does Murderbot. He says, "Can I ask you a question?" And Murderbot's like, "Yeah, sure," because it actually asks for permission to ask this question. So Garathan's Murderbot's growing a little bit on Garathan. Then Garathan says, "Were you punished for the killing of all those miners?" Right? The mining crew. And Murderbot's like, "Well, not in the same way that humans would be. I was taken offline, kind of disassembled, and they wiped my memory and everything, or most of it. But yeah, that's it." And Garathan's like, "Wait, so do you blame humans? Like, are you angry at humans for for you killing all those people, for the fact that you did all those things?" And Murderbot's like, "Nah, that's human shit. I'm a construct. We don't think like that. That's stupid." And it's awesome that what an answer. Like that's a ballsy answer. And this is kind of the moment that the Garathan kind of like, "My heart grew 3 sizes too big." He stopped being the Grinch for a hot second, which I thought that was pretty dope. But Minsei kind of listened in a little bit to the conversation, and things were fine. Then we get to part 6, and this is pretty interesting. We're getting into the juicy part. Okay, so part 6, and this is the final part of this chapter. Once Murderbot felt the feed from the drones, it's kind of cool how Murderbot talks about the signal that it receives. It can kind of feel other people's feeds. It's like, when you have a phone and you see that it goes on Wi-Fi, but it's got like one signal, and so the phone can feel the Wi-Fi signal that it's attached to. It's like sensing it for Murderbot. I find that awesome, actually. I love the way that's described, because I imagine I can see it in my head. It's so visual. What a great writing. Good job. Yeah, good job, Martha. Good job with that one. That's very thoughtful. I know that seems like a little thing, but that's one of those little things on top of everything else in this world building, that's really like, oh, it can sense other feeds that are paying attention. It can sense weapons coming online. It can sense fields of energy and signals because it's a cyborg. Very interesting. I never really heard of that kind of happening before. It's like it has more than 6 senses, right? So that's pretty cool. So once it felt the drones, Murderbot landed the hopper and started analyzing the download. It gave Garathan half the download, and they started kind of going through from the point that they left to the point that the evil survey landed, and they started going through. They saw the evil survey had 5 sec units, 2 of the Deltfall units, and 3 others. And those 3 others were wearing a crest called Grey Chris, which the humans had no idea who they were because Murderbot sent the feed to them. Super interesting. Then something horrible happens. Garathan starts freaking out, pauses his feed, and then sends it to everybody. And one of the humans, by the way, who are decked out with weapons. Now, they're not soldiers. Murderbot makes it very clear. The humans aren't soldiers. They're not decked out in gear. And the sec units aren't soldiers either. These are just standard sec units. Which leads me to believe that this group is still fully intending for the sec units to kill the humans. Like, they don't want to be. This isn't a mass murder. This isn't a genocidal act. This is really like, we want these humans to die a very specific way. We want no followers. We want no one to know that we have this equipment on. We don't want it to look like we are armed. Nothing. We want nothing to. We want it to look like these sec units are the ones who murdered these people. But in the feed, what had happened was one of these humans started speaking, I guess, toward the drone, and it said, "You knew we were coming, so I assume you have some way of watching us while we're here." Creepy. That creeped me out. I'm into that. That's awesome. And then also they convey that they destroyed the beacon, which makes sense. Then the voice provided coordinates and a timestamp, and that they're going to meet and have propose a non-violent solution or an arrangement for what's going on. And that was the end of the message, and that was the last of the video audio that they received. So the group kind of gets together, and Minsei realizes that Evil Survey thought they knew. Evil Survey thinks that our crew knows why Evil Survey's there. That's why this is happening. That's why there's an arrangement, right? But they don't. Our crew doesn't. Except they went to this part of the map, right? The blank parts. And it has to be the blank parts where our crew did their surveying and whatnot. That's where the gold is. That's where the treasure is. That's why these people are there. Is because that part of the map has something to do with it. Maybe it's fuel or something. Maybe it's some super secret mineral. And this crew wants to, the Evil Survey wants to kill the crew, right? Because maybe it knows what's in that dirt. So all of the data that they collected from that part of the map obviously is there's a key in there. And maybe the crew that's in the other hopper at the landing zone, the LZ that they were just at earlier in the chapter before they left to come here, they probably might already know why they're here. So there's some and then it says then Murderbot states that it's got a good idea, and I think I already know what the good idea is. I think the good idea is Murderbot's gonna use Minsei to bargain. I think that's what's gonna happen. It's kind of clear because Murderbot even says "Oh, she's a VIP. Okay, who cares? I mean, I'm glad I know, but whatever." And now Murderbot's like, "Oh, well, if they think that we know they know, but we don't know, and we can go figure out what they know, then we can use Minsei and her power and levity in politics to move forward on our plan and agenda." Pretty smart. Yeah. I don't know what their plan is. They're probably, like I said, they're probably going to full on try to make a deal here. And I imagine it's going to include some really great combat. This final fight scene, which I think is going to happen in the next chapter. There are 2 chapters left. This is chapter 6. There's 7 and 8. I think we're going to have a chapter 7, which is going to be the final conflict, the final climax. And then chapter 8 is going to be a prologue, where we kind of figure out where Murderbot is afterward. That feels about right for the pacing of this book so far. I don't know what else the crew's going to do. Are they just going to sit in the hopper and discuss things for another week? No. I think they even say that the timestamp is the next day. So things are going to come to a head. Essentially, we have 5 sec units against our Murderbot. How's that going to go down? What's our Murderbot going to do? It's got 3 drones, but that's about it. So there's going to have to be some clever things happening, right? They're going to have to figure out how to do this. I mean, it feels like, I hate to use a Naruto reference, but here comes a Naruto reference. I feel like we're going to get some Talk No Jutsu. Some Talk No Jutsu. This is a pretty good chapter, though. It's a good book. I love that they're kind of short. I love that they're, they feel good. They're easy. I could probably read 1 book in a day. Get up in the morning, crush it, and then just move on with my life. How many books are there? There are currently 7 Murderbot books, 7 in the mainline story, and it looks like there's a couple of other short stories that are around that too. So, okay, pretty cool. And the last one, System Collapse, the one that came out in 2023, it says it's a full-length novel. So, like I said, I like this story. I like this writing. I like this Murderbot. I think there's a lot more that can be gleaned from this Murderbot. I like the relationship Murderbot has with Minsei, and I currently now, after reading this chapter, like the conversation. I like it feels like Garathan, once Garathan trusts something, it trusts it forever. Hard. It just takes a long time to get to that level of trust. So I love their blossoming relationship, because I think it's going to blossom really good. I can't wait to read the next chapter. I think I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. If you like this content, please like and subscribe and share. We drop stuff daily, so stick around, check it out. There's always a seat here on the kitchen couch. But until next time, later, taters.